All right, good evening, everyone. It's about 4:15 Central Time, Southern Mississippi, 60 degrees with 86% humidity. It's been raining off and on today. So just finished my warm-up. Got about 2 minutes to go. I'm getting ready to do another race, but this one will be in downtown London. So longer laps, less of them. We're going to stick with the Zip 808 wheels. This is a mostly flat course, a couple little inclines. I'm going to also stick with the Venge because of that. The climbs aren't big climbs, so ever so slight disadvantage on the climb. Versus some of my other frames, but more than makes up for it on the flats. So heart rate's already way cooled down, more than I want it to be. I'm gonna try and spin it back up here real quick. I think this is 5 laps. Let me flip this over, 30 seconds to go. There are 5 laps you can see up there. First person view. 20 seconds to go. Shoes tightened up. Heart rate pretty good. And we're out. Here we go. A, B, C, and D again. Do not like this style. This is still the lead in. Race hasn't started yet. Caught him. We had a 9-second gap on us.
That's a 0% incline. Okay. That's how you get that. You should not have stopped at home. You should have been like, oh my God, Ben, she's going to stop. Right? You should have been winded. A lot of that was aerobic work. Congratulations, because you earned the right to be there. You've been working on bills? Also, pretty much you can know it. And start with the regular walk. Into a power walk. Try it out. To the jog. 250 to 75 to 90. Don't do up along the way. And that's what this workout was about today. So all that work we're getting up with that arm swing, that knee drop, that heel drop, the wall, the foot strike, all the kids together. And that's how we pull this workout, putting it all together.
Here comes the group overtaking us. 3 laps to go.
Exactly.
the toes rest the mat. Take the hamstring on the opposite side. Same move. And get a rock down to the ground. Relax. Get ready to the toes wide. Grab your shin. Pull your head down. And slowly lift your way up. Going all the way to the toes of your hands. Right above the right knee.
Stretch a little. Last lap. Oh man, I got a side ache. We'll hand out these thumbs up. We'll get over to our cool down. All right, so I need to explain this before, but for those that haven't watched, I want to keep my data accurate just for the ride, just for the race. So I need to quit this so it saves it away, so that it's unadulterated data just for the race. Doesn't include my cool down and all that. That's going to adjust my averages and all that. So I need to save it, quit Zwift, come back into Zwift. That's why your screen went black with the game. The game will come back here in a moment. Whew. Get some feeling back into my feet. I think we're in Yorkshire for the warm-up, so we'll go to Innsbruck for the cool down. Stretch out my lower back a little bit. I gotta tell you, those fans are cold. You got this big gear. These fans are cold when I'm not putting out some heat. So I only had one more gear left to go into at the end there. Let's head on over to Garmin. So, pretty sure I was in a draft the whole time during that sprint because I picked it up. It looked like every time I looked, I had about 2 meters behind the guy in front of me. So no matter how fast I went, I wasn't catching him. Wasn't losing him, but wasn't catching him. So in that draft, I hit a max speed of 36.7 miles an hour. So I'm pretty happy with that. Heart rate 179. The only number that might be above that was at the very beginning of the race, during the lead-in, I saw 182, but I'm not sure if that's accurate because the data before it was right when I was moving my heart rate around because it was sitting at 160 and there was no way I was at 160, so I moved it. It jumped to 170, then 182, back down to like 173, then down to 170, back up to 173, where it was kind of sat there the rest of the time. So I don't think the 182 is accurate. So 179 was my sprint heart rate. The other thing I was going to check was my cadence, because what I need to do is overlay my speed. So during my max speed, which if that did occur in that highest gear, then that was at 96 RPM. So I think what I did was tried to wind it up. I'm trying to remember it now without looking at the video. Tried to wind it up, wind it up, wind up, wind up, wind up. Grabbed a couple, one or two bigger gears out of the saddle. Looked up, I was still with the same guy. Sat down and grabbed another gear, bigger gear, and then held out to the finish. So that was, what did I say? 96 or something RPM. So it was 101 RPM, and then it dropped to 84, so that was probably me grabbing the next gear. And then 96 was where it finished, and then it dropped off, because that would have been me crossing the finish line and stopped pedaling. So 96 RPM with only one more gear to go. So I could have, if I had it in me, arguably could have grabbed the next gear, because I had room to go. At 96 RPM on the second biggest gear, meant the next gear I probably would have been around in the high 80s, low 90s. Those look like they're only 1/2 increments, so maybe it would have dropped at 5 RPM. So that would have meant I still would have been at 90 RPM. But at that point, it felt like I was turning over squares. So that also hit my max power output, which was so before I grabbed the gear, so I was at 465. Grabbed the next gear, went again, and that was at 556. I was actually surprised that someone didn't make a move on that little uphill piece, about 1.2 miles to the finish. That's where I was expecting it to go. But instead what happened was everyone picked up the pace, and so no one could get away, which maybe was a better thing. You know, obviously then it turns into a sprint game. As you can see, I don't have to sprint. I can sort of hold my own for a bunch sprint finish. Not to win the sprint by any means, but just to kind of finish with everyone else. So in order to win that race, and this is the same exact race I did a couple weeks back. It's the same one I thought I was doing last time I raced in London. So this time I realized, this is the one where I think it was me and one other guy went off the front at that little climb, and we stayed away. And so I wanted to do that again. Again, it's one of those things that your mind needs to believe you can do it. And so that was my goal. But as it is, the tempo got raised right there, and so it probably was, I don't know, it was good that no one went away because I wouldn't have gone with them, wouldn't have been able to, unless I then decided to jump and put it all in. But because as it was, because everyone raised the tempo, I was doing everything I could just to stay with the group. Which reminds me, how did we do? So in an event like that, you saw there were some C's up front. Some of them we pulled back as they popped out the back of that front group. I was going to point out, but I didn't have any breath left to speak. One of the spots where we go on the red brick, where we go up to the 180 and then veer off to the right, we got to see the front group coming back. This maybe was on the first lap. Maybe it's the second lap. I don't know, it's hard to tell because the lead in was so much of the race before the race even starts. I voiced my opinion on that, so I won't again. But at one point you could see the front group comes by. 3-5 seconds later, another small group comes by, and you can see the chatter that was going on in the little balloon pop-outs on the list of riders. And when they happen up above at the top of the list, not next to someone, it's because they're not within that immediate list. So it's either, I think, the top is either someone in front of you or behind you. It always made sense to me to only be the people in front of you, but I think I've had people that are at the bottom of the list say something, and the bubble's up top, and then they come into the bottom of the list and it jumps down with them. So I think it's in front or behind you, basically just not in that immediate list. And anyway, you could see the chatter from them that they had some B's and C's in that group, and the C's were calling out the fact that they need to work with the B's to get the B's back to that front group to stay away from the C's in the group I was in. So they were definitely fully aware of what was going on. And again, that's why I'm not a fan of that style of race. I get that I get that you have to work to stay with a bigger group. But the reality is, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again, in a real race, there is no other group to work with. So that's not how it works. And in sanctioned races, where you have multiple groups out on the same course at the same time, because otherwise it would take too long to run all the races, you are not supposed to jump in with another group and utilize them. You're supposed to neutralize. Otherwise you risk the being DQ'd. So, and I've actually been the benefit of that, where I was told that it was a circuit race. We were out on a car racetrack where they do Formula One races, and I think they run some NASCAR there. Not NASCAR, but those kind of cars. So they call it something else, but it's like a NASCAR race, but not NASCAR. I don't know. Anyway. So during the not racing season, it's open for a variety of other activities, and one of them is they put on a weekly bike race out there. And it's actually a fantastic course for anyone wanting to kind of get their feet wet in racing, because it's a huge, wide racetrack, and it's all flat, and but you've got some wind situations to deal with, and it's a perfect place for anyone to learn to race. And that's really one of the places where I got my feet wet. I've done a couple of races before that, but not really racing other than just saying, yeah, I raced. Got to climb coming up here just a sec. Grab a lower gear here. Where was I going with that whole story? Oh, neutralized. So we had like 2 or 3 groups on that course at one time. So it was like a 2.1 mile or something like that, 2.2 mile circuit. And so, you'd have people every once in a while that get caught out and such. Usually if someone gets spit out the back, the other group overtakes them. But, they're not going to catch them. They basically just pass them and everything's fine. Well, one time, I don't remember what category I was racing at the time, but I think it was early on, so I was probably category 4. And a big group of C's came around us. I think they had jumped out the front of the C's and stayed away, not C's, 3s, and stayed away because the rest of the 3s never caught us. And so they came around. There was like 5 or 6 maybe. I don't remember exactly who was who. And I think I was in like 5th or 6th place with about 3/4 or a half a lap to go. And they came around us, and 3 guys from the 4s shot out the front, jumped on their wheel, and raced with them to the finish. Well, we came around the final turn, and it's a long straightaway, and I decided I'd go for it, and we were riding clockwise that race, so it's about a 270 degree, 45, 90, 130, 135 degree angle turn. So you come into it tight, out, and then it's a straightaway. And I'd ridden the race a few times by that point, and decided that, again, I'm not a sprinter. I wasn't back then either. And decided that I was going to go. So by this point now I'm like 3rd, because the guys that went out the front. And so I took off all the way over to the left. There's also some wind through there. So I took all the way to the left. Kind of imagine it's this straightaway here. I'm all the way on the left-hand side where there's a concrete barrier. And sprinted up that concrete barrier on the left, and no one went with me. I don't know where people finished behind me, but the 3 guys that jumped out in front and rode with the 3s when they were really 4s were disqualified for not neutralizing, and so I took the 1st place. So I was pretty happy about that, and that kind of gave me the bug at that point. Like anything, if you think you're good at something, you would like doing it some more, right? So then, next race I show up and All right, I know how this is going to work out. Everything's good. I'll just go and I got like 10th place or something. It's just how things work out, right? It's every little thing. You know, what have you done to prepare? What condition are you in? What'd you eat? How many hours beforehand? Did you have the energy? Was your body doing other things? What was the temperature like? I mean, all these little variables that can impact everything. Who was racing? Right? Maybe I took first, you know, which is, you could argue, is fourth, because some faster guys didn't show up that day. You know, those are just always the questions. All right, so I'll go ahead and take this to 5 miles. I'm at 4.4 now. Heart rate's been down for a while. You know, recap of the race. It started out, and I started questioning whether or not this was even going to happen. Lots and lots and lots of work being put in. And the race hadn't even started yet. And anyway, got settled in. You know, there's a gap that formed. Guys up the front, I actually thought about trying to jump over, and didn't do it. I don't know if that was a smart move or not. And it's one of those things where I've had lots of experience now with, if I go too early, I get spit out the back. Well, now I'm starting to wonder if I have enough experience and enough conditioning where I have to go to the front, because otherwise I know I'm not going to be able to finish where I want. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a lot longer of a race. 3.3 miles each, more like a road race. But maybe not a road race, because we are doing laps. I never did get you an answer, so I finished 15th out of 53, counting just the C's, and not counting everyone. And of course, when I say that, these are always the places for everyone in the race, which isn't necessarily places for the Zwift community, Zwift racing community, I guess I should say. Let me turn off these fans because I am really freezing. Plus you can probably hear me better. So I talked about it in one of my early videos. There's a thing called Zwift Power, and you have to, it's an opt-in situation, so not everyone opts in. But if you're not opted in, then you can't ever, one, your data never shows up on Zwift Power, but two, it never counts toward racing stats. So you won't be able to see this, but I can bring up, maybe, except the keyboard's way over there. There we go. If I go to Zwift Power, and look at the same exact race that we just did. So keep in mind, there were 53 riders, and I came in 15th of the riders that raced. But if I look at just the C's, I came in third. I got a trophy out of 13 that were registered on Zwift Power. So all the other guys don't count. In fact, the guy that had the kind of brown and green camouflage, yeah, it was like a Dauphine. Looks like a Canadian flag, so maybe that's French Canadian. He finished right in front of me. I thought it gave stats like down to hundreds of seconds. Maybe I have to look in some other screen, but anyway, he finished right in front of me. He was registered on Zwift Power, so he got silver. I got bronze. Gold went to a C. They finished 2 minutes and 7 seconds in front of us. So he was up. He was able to stick with the probably the A/B group. Let's see if I look at everyone. Oh, they do share tenths, hundredths, thousandths of a second differences, but once the time differences gaps get big enough, then they're not showing that. But he finished with one. Oh no, where did he finish? There was 3 B's that finished with our group. And then he finished with a bunch of B's that were all also at the 2 minute 7 second mark or so. So he was the top placing C. He was the C in that group, and everyone else in that group looks like there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 B's, and an A was also in that group. So it looks like they were that group that was trying to catch the ABs. The group I told you was calling out, let's work with the Bs to try and get everyone up, because the Cs, my group, was trying to catch them. So anyway, so Zwift Power is the quote unquote governing body. It will call out things like disqualifications for going riding above your category. It checks your weight, your height, for what's called weight doping or height doping. So if you go in and tweak your weight or tweak your height for a race, it's going to get thrown as a flag. So when you see me adjust mine every time I race, because right now it is set at 163.1, that's what I weighed in this morning. And when I'm done here, I'm going to set that back to 170, and that's where I'm going to train at, because I want that slightly harder effort, more realistic situation to where that would be my weight with extra stuff I'm carrying when I'm out on a training ride. But I want to set my real weight to realistic numbers, and it's going to watch for my weight fluctuations. And if it sees a dip in weight during a race, it's going to get flagged. Same with a dip in height, right? Because the smaller you are, or the lighter you are, it's going to have an impact on the physics within the game. So it's checking for abnormalities, race on race on race. And then it looks for your abnormal, like extra high wattage, right? So if your watts are too high for your category, or your watts per kilogram are too high over over checking for several times. It's checking for your average watts per kilogram, your 20-minute, 5-minute, 1-minute, 30-second, 15-second watts per kilogram numbers, as well as your normalized power, to make sure that you're riding within what you ride every single race. So there isn't this, whoa, where did you get that from? And two, that you haven't tweaked with the data to put out numbers that don't jive with what you have consistently shown that you're capable of doing. So again, it's designed to make sure that everyone's on the up and up, no one's cheating. What's your heart rate like, what's your wattage like, your averages. It'll show your gains or losses. It'll rank you against your gender, your age, your category, I think your country, a whole bunch of different things, so you can kind of see how you're doing. Anyway, so 13th in for all the people within the race, or 3rd within Zwift Power. So yay me. That was a bit of a surprise, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, so with that, like I said, I'll go ahead and adjust the weight here, change my equipment back. Again, I do all my training on like I would in real life. I'd go out with more bulletproof type rims and tires, and my let's take all the abuse bike versus super light, looking for every second of advantage race bike. So that's where I spend all my time when I'm not racing. Same with my weight. Set that back to my training weight, and that's where I'll keep it, with the exception of when I race. Or the other day for Thanksgiving, I did a big group ride, and it looked like it was going to be a group ride, i.e. people are going to lay down the hammer. So I went ahead and put in my my racing weight there as well, and picked a racing setup. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions about that, leave me a comment. I am more than happy to be 100% completely transparent about all of that, because again, I'm not looking to cheat at all. But what I am trying to do is make sure that I want a realistic situation within that virtual world. So that's why I'm spend so much time explaining it to folks. I do need to call out an individual for kudos, but I don't want to do it on this one, because this is an hour and 20 minutes into the ride, and if people hung around this long, yay, but most people aren't going to. So I don't want to say I gave a guy some kudos, but it's at the end of a big, giant, long video. So I have not forgotten. I will call that out in a future video. So stay tuned for that. As always, I'll leave down in the comments 3 things. 1, my Garmin data, so check it out. Again, if you have any questions about that, we can talk about it. 2, the link to the hydration product I use called H2O. And 3, a link to all of the maps of Zwift. If there's something you want to see me ride, even if I've ridden it before, leave me a comment. Or you want to see me ride it, but the other direction, leave me a comment. Or just go for a ride. I've had several people now invite me to rides. Unfortunately, they're on different parts of the world, so they're usually in the middle of the night for me, or at some time frame that we haven't been able to set something up yet. But if you're interested in going for a ride, leave me a comment as well. We'll hook something up. With that, keep on Zwifting. I will see you in the virtual world, and ride on.